Hi, welcome to Sweet Opinions, where I, Honey Dip C, also known as Kay, am going to tell you my unwarranted, unasked opinions as a 30-something that is figuring her shit out. Great. Today, we are going to be doing our first in a series, a part one series, where we talk about my opinions on books, graphic novels to be particular. This book right now is called Habibi. It's by Craig Thompson. He wrote another book that's like this size. It's called Blankets. I'll be doing that one later in the series. But this is the book. As we see, it's thick. They have, damn, it doesn't even give page numbers. That's kind of crazy. Endless pages. Hear that? It's a fan on a hot day. Yeah, pages, thick. I think this book is a beautiful story. It is a story of triumph. It is a story that very much has lots of full circle moments in it. I read this book, and then about a year later, I read The Alchemist, and I thought very deeply about how they resonated with each other. So if you like The Alchemist, you might like this book. It's not like a happy ending like The Alchemist. Like, we all know, what happens after the end, or we can make our assumptions or whatever. But it's not like that. It's a sad full circle, but a fulfilling full circle. The story is about two characters, this little boy and this little girl. And it's beautifully done. Like, the art inside of it, gorgeous, right? This is a full panel of it. It's gorgeous artwork. The book is about, what's this little girl's name? I never remember her name, but essentially she is sold as a child bride. Like, the story starts off about her. Also, this is very spoiler alert, so if you don't like those, go read the book and then come back and tell me if you share the same opinion. About a little girl. It's probably about the lady. Her name is Diobla. Yeah. Dabola and Zam. Dabola is the young lady, Zam is the boy. There we go. Now they have names. Dabola is sold as a child bride by her father before she's of legal age to be a child bride. She is with her husband on her wedding night after he deflowers her, and their home is broken into, and she is kidnapped by basically people that want to take her and sell her into human trafficking. She, after being kidnapped, escapes and is walking through the city after escaping, and she sees a little boy. She decides to take the little boy under her wing, convinces the people around them, okay, the little boy is my brother. We just have different fathers. And she takes him with him. It's a baby at this point. Zam is a baby. So she understands as a child what it means to lose her childhood and sees him, as a baby, knowing what it means to be sold and knowing that he'll never have an existence before it begins, and takes him under the wing. Mind you, at this point, she's maybe 11 years old. The story follows the two of them as they... Oof. Shit. Basically, I'm going to give you a synopsis, right? Zam sees Diobla. They're living in a boat together. After we get through the introductions, they're living in a boat together in the desert, hiding from society. And Diobla is trying to figure out a way to get food and everything. From the time that she's a young child, she's able to use the, oh, pity me, my brother, and get, free food and things like that from people. Once she starts to develop as a young lady, she has to now trade intimacy for food for the two of them. He's still a toddler, an infant, a young child during this process of her going from being innocent and being able to use her innocence to do it to having to lose her innocence to be able to provide for them. A responsibility she's taking on as a now between 14 and 15-year-old for her adopted brother that she found. Eventually, he catches on to what's happening with her trading herself and her services for food for them, and he finds out about it during a time of puberty for himself. So when he finds out about this, he goes through a process of shame and guilt, and she feels betrayed by her because she is supposed to be, his safekeeper. She's supposed to be keeping him safe, right? And it's just not happening. Or he's seeing her in like a different light, because like, you're supposed to be my mother, you're supposed to be pure, you're supposed to be my sister, and here you are selling yourself. And in the process of this, one night she goes to trade after they have a fight or whatever, to go get them food or whatever, and she's gone for a really, really long time. And he starts to believe that she left or got kidnapped or something, and like leaves the boat to go look for her. She comes back and finds that he's gone, and like goes back out to look for him, and then proceeds to get kidnapped. He is attracted to her. Like, they're going through phase. They used to sleep together, they used to bathe together, but like before, they separate, he's feeling all these attractiveness. She's like, oh no, you can't bathe with me anymore, you can't sleep with me anymore, you can't watch me change anymore. And he's trying to figure out why this maternal figure, the only maternal fit sisterhood figure he's having, is rejecting him now. And that process of all those feelings. Honestly, read the book. It's so good. Like, even what I described skims the fucking surface. Like, I'm gonna try not to curse, guys. I'm working on it. It skims the fucking surface. What proceeds after is that he feels so much guilt and so much shame for feeling the reason that she disappears, or that she finds out that she disappeared down the road. Because eventually he comes back to the boat, finds out she's not there, waits for a while, realizes she's not coming back. He feels like it's his fault that he drove her away with his lust for her, his lust for his maternal figure, and that is why she's gone. That is why she has rejected him, just like his initial mother rejected him, because there's something wrong with him, when there's really not. So he is at one point starving himself to death, feeling that he's not worthy to live, ready to kill himself, and he meets this group of eunuchs, right? And in my opinion, I feel like that group of people, like, because they were eunuchs, but they were trans eunuchs, so they represented themselves as female presenting in their society, and they were respected differently and didn't have different space, because everyone understood that they were eunuchs that were female presenting. That is what exists in this timeline of the book. He decides that he wants to join that. He is so sick and tired and hurt from his sins and everything that he's done, that he feels like he's had a part in, that he, by choice, turns into a eunuch. I think he shouldn't have did that, right? I feel like if he had just waited it out a little bit, like, let it do his thing, it would have all evened out. It didn't even out, though. He didn't give it a chance to even out, and then he lives, his later down as eunuch. That's how I'm going to start the story, because, like, it gets deep after that, but I really want you guys to read the book. Craig Thompson is a fantastic author. Essentially, we're going to work to the end. Dabala ends up in a harem. She ends up as the king's favorite. She gets pregnant. She has a child. She uses her child to replace Zam, because she misses Zam and she doesn't blame him at all. And that was her baby in her eyes. And then her child is murdered by someone that's jealous of her, right? Eventually, like, she's kicked out. She's left to die. Zam finds her in the street. They come back together. They're walking through the street. They see a little girl, and they're like, and someone's trying to sell the little girl. They're like, oh, how much do you want for her? What are you going to use her for? So they deceive the person, thinking that, because the person only wanted to sell her, that they were going to do bad things. They took the little girl, and then they go off and start their own family. Her as someone that can no longer have children because of the trauma from her first pregnancy, and him as a eunuch. But them coming back together in a maternal and now paternal situation, raising a child. This book was fucking bananas, okay? I'm just going to pick a page and tell you how I felt, because this was crazy. I was reading this for days, right? Oop, I can't even show you that because it's nude. There's some nudity in this book too, if you like that. I don't think you should, but This is when she is coming to terms and learning about herself, right? All metals are born from differently combinations of sulfur and mercury, determined by purity and proportion. And purity and proportion are like a big element in this story. You're gonna like catch up onto it. That's why it has like this fire ass chart in the front and in the back or whatever. You can see it when you buy the book. I didn't spend $60 on this book to show you the whole thing. Get it together. But at one point she feels like, gold and wealth is the only thing that can like get her there. And I'm just like, girl, what? The trauma. Okay, the trauma. He did his job. Let me pick another page. At this point, like here's one. She is studying in the harem or whatever. The librarian has her head cut off. Boom, because she was caught helping the women read. The czar is like, come on, it's ladies' night. Drop your robes. He's, existing in all of the things. She gets pregnant during an orgy. And honestly, she's losing her mind. Like, after she has the baby, she just starts getting fried. Like, baby becomes a crash out. Rightfully so. Shit's dramatic. Baby becomes a crash out. And, like, she is just seeing the moon, the suns, and stars, like, really feeling upset. At one point, her baby that she wanted so bad that she used to replace Zam is being nursed by a black woman. Clock the T and think about it, okay? Is being nursed by a black woman because she's so zooted out of her mind from the trauma of her pregnancy, how she got pregnant, how she was kidnapped, that she's not even like associating to the baby. The only thing she thinks about when she thinks about the baby is Zam, because that's her real child in her opinion. That baby is just a baby that was born out of a fucking orgy by the man that kidnapped her and put him in her harem. And he's not Miguel, so she did not agree. If he was Miguel, I would agree. And she is literally going through a whatchamacallit. She's like, that which came from me, it was not familiar like the one I adopted. Because and this when she's having feelings of guilt for not, because she's having postpartum. All right, she's having postpartum. Let's talk about it. She's going through feelings of postpartum after the traumatic ass pregnancy that she was forced into. She had no choices in, zooted as hell. And she feels no connection to this child because it's a child of someone that has kidnapped her. But she feels connection and loss to the child that she had adopted, which had now started feeling lustful feelings for her. So now she's got super duper complex and she feels bad that she doesn't, have this bond with her real child, but she has it with another child, while watching another black woman that looks like the child she had nurse her real baby. You know what I say? I say she should have murdered that little motherfucker. All right, he looked like he was short and round, and that all he would have been able to do is roll over. And there was a left step out there that she could have done her shabubi. What do they call it? Sharabi, shabiba, shabubi, when they smoke it. The hookah. It's a word for it. Whatever. In the hookah, because that man was getting high. She could have put it in his hookah. And, all right, a little bit of wolfsbane. It was around. Come on. Anyway, he starts to favor her because she is basically a doll. Like she'll just do whatever because she's so whatchamacallit. And every time she looks at her child, she sees this monster that impregnated her. Like she's tripping out. She's tripping out to the max. Like, we're gonna show you how much she's tripping out, and I'm gonna blur this. Like, baby is literally having an Alice in Wonderland Cheshire Cat moment, okay? Baby smoking shisha. There we go. I knew I remember the word. Baby smoking shisha in the Treasure Cat. Well, like, okay, let's. All right. I'm just going to pull different pieces from it because she goes through a long phase of just feeling desperate and feeling not enough. And he goes through so many phases of, like, this is Zam after he is a eunuch and is presenting as female in their society, okay? That's what they look like now. They're going through these things simultaneously. He is becoming a eunuch simultaneously as she, in another part of their country, is being sold and forced into a harem. And they're both missing each other. Like, they at this point are about, and I switch between he and they, not because I'm ignorant, but because one thing that I never was able to wrap my head around fully in the book, because at the end of the book, although they are a eunuch, they start presenting as a man again and moving as the masculine presence between the two of them. And it talks about masculine and feminine balance a lot in this book as well. He starts moving as the masculine presence between him and Dabala in their relationship at the end of the story. So I switch between she, they, and he because at all points in the story, they were called those things and presented as those things and recognized not just themselves in society, but themselves in their own reflection as those things. So I ain't ignorant. She just complex. It's a good book. They made them go through a whole process after the castration. They have to lay in the sand. They have deathly hallucinations. They're fed certain things that make them sick. They, even at a certain point, tried to have a romantic relationship with another woman now that they are a eunuch. And they could not, and the person was another eunuch as well, but they did not like to be called a eunuch. They liked to be called she. So I'm going to say another woman because that's how they felt. They represented themselves as she and felt like she even before they were a eunuch. They became a eunuch to match how they were feeling within their body. Unlike him, who became a eunuch to escape his guilt. So they're trying to have a relationship. Neither of them have their lower parts. And Zam is so disconnected from their body that they don't feel anything. They can't connect with anything. Whenever they try to, they don't have any roots solidified in anything but trauma. Mind you, I'm halfway through the story, okay? We only halfway through the book. You hear that clap? Smell like my ass. It's crazy. Zam at one point is removed from the community that he's in that is filled with eunuchs and female presenting people in society, and is forced to go back as a eunuch to presenting himself as a man and working inside of the same castle that Dabala is being held in. And that's how they end up coming back together. He's being held in the slave chambers. And the only and if you know anything about history, historically across different nations, different countries, different places, the only places that were allowed, the only people that were allowed that were born men inside of the harem of kings and princes and sultans and czars were eunuchs, because eunuchs were strong from their male physical form, but they did not pose a threat to impregnating any of the women because they did not have the equipment to do so. So, forced to go back to being a boy. Like, let's talk about it. Shaved head. Does this look shocking, right? Shocked. Stop speaking at this point. Has not spoken a word. Has not spoken a word. Is just a mute eunuch working in the whatchamacallit, moving numbly because he has had to leave the community that he found, that when he found safety. He was forced to leave out of that after losing his home, his maternal sister, mother, first love. These feelings are so complex in this book that, like, if you've ever gone through it, when I was reading this, I was in the midst of my BDSM journey. And I felt so many big feelings, and I was meeting so many different people, and I was trying to empathize on so many different levels with everybody, because I was like, I can meet you there, I can meet you there. And I started reading this book, and I was like, you cannot meet everybody everywhere, because some people's stuff is embedded deep, and it's something that you'll never understand. And all you have permission or the ability to do is step back and see it and respect it and move forward. And that's it. And I was like, this book really made me stop being so invasive, made me stop feeling like I have to save everyone. I have to save everyone. I have to do everything and be a part of everything because I know how it feels. I don't actually know how it feels. I'm sorry that it feels the way you're telling me it feels. And I wish it didn't feel that way. Yeah. They end up in the harem. He ends up seeing her in passing. She ends up being like, okay, well, you gotta die. He's like, if you can't make me happy for 60 days in a row, I'm gonna kill you since you lost my baby. It is deeply sad. Like, she was supposed to be drowned, and he found her while she was supposed to be drowned. They didn't behead her. They were like, we're gonna drown her. He finds her. They go back together. He nurses her back to health the same way she nursed him to health after finding him as an orphan while working and still having these roles. And then one day she regains her health after basically throwing up all the sins. She was an addict, right? Like, when he finds her, she's a paper doll addict, just trying to please the man that kidnapped her and dealing with the loss of a child and really grieving everything that she's gone through, and she's just using shisha and everything else and opiums and everything else to drown those feelings out. So when he finds her, the Sultan is done with her. She's lost everything. They were going to drown her, and he saves her. So he is with her as she goes through rehab, essentially, to like clean herself out. And eventually, like, they're both in a place where they're like, no, we can do this. We can be together. I got a job. The world is changing. And eventually, like, they come back to a place. In the end, he has to reconcile with the emotional and romantic feelings that he has for her as now a grown man, because years have passed. Now as a grown man and her as a grown woman and not as a maternal figure. And I'm going to let y'all read the rest of it to see how it happens, because I cried. I sobbed, and I'm not going to take that from you. Overall, my sweet opinion is that this is a fire flame Dylon book. If you have the time to read it, read it. If you don't have the time to read it, read it. I sat down, and it took me almost 2 weeks to read because of like life. And I took it with me everywhere. I took it to the swingers club. I took it to the grocery store and read it in the car ride on the way there. I took it with me on trips and read it on the plane. Like, life did not stop me from this, because holy cow. So it's this book is a 12 out of 10. It's a fantastic book. I don't lend it out. I hope you can find it. I had to scour the world for it, actually. I couldn't even find it online. I had to go to an actual bookstore, have it requested, had it mailed to that bookstore, had to come back to the bookstore and picked it up, and then took it back to me to the state that I was going back to. Yeah. Hope you can find it, though.